This week, we are covering the archetypal gesture of dominate, as well as using the artistic frame to increase your power on stage and on camera right after this. Hi, the Inspired Actor here. If you're new to this channel, we are dedicated to helping actors become better artists by offering these quick, roughly 10-minute acting lessons. We try to post these weekly, so if you want to see more videos like these, go ahead and subscribe so you'll be notified as soon as they come out. Also, take a moment before you forget and hit that like button, as it really helps me out. And if you know people who might like these videos, please don't hesitate to share them on your social media outlet of choice. If you haven't seen my other videos in this series, I strongly encourage you to do so when you can. In them, I introduce you to the mechanics of push, pull, and lift, and talk about what archetypal gestures are and what they are intended to be used for. I also cover the importance of using your whole body in your work, the actor's imagination, the components of the actor's objective, feeling of form, sense of concentration, and a bunch of other stuff. So if you want to start from the beginning, I'll put a card up here so that you can do that. But as I've said before, you can start wherever you like, because no gesture is more important or more useful than another. So, to begin with, let's go over the mechanics of dominate. Dominate. Begin in a neutral stance. Feet shoulder width apart, arms at your side, chest open and radiating. Inhale. Take a small step forward and reach up and slightly forwards with the palms facing down and parallel to the floor. Your arms should be extended but not locked. And exhale. Following your hands with your eyes, press down with your palms so that your arms now extend downwards. Again, do not lock your elbows. Change your eye focus to your scene partner if you have one. Using your creative imagination, imagine that the dominate gesture doesn't end at the end of the physical movement, but continues through your radiating energy. Once you sense the gesture is at an end, return to neutral. Do not rush the ending of the gesture or let it continue after you feel it has concluded. Like the other 5 gestures I am teaching in this series, dominate can be thought of as a root archetypal gesture that forms the basis of a cluster of archetypal gestures that move in a direction from up to down. In my view, in order to be a root archetype, the gesture must be simple, linear, and flexible. By flexible, I mean it is able to be performed at any tempo, rhythm, resistance, or quality. It also must have both a positive and negative meaning. In other words, you can dominate the other or others sharing the scene with you with both a positive or a negative intent. I can dominate my spouse or lover in order to make them do what I want them to do, to control them, to make them feel small, to gaslight them, to make them my puppet, to crush their spirit, and so on. But I could also be a mother trying to quiet my child, or get my child to calm down, or save them from themselves, or see that I am right, or get them to sleep. As I've mentioned before, the point of these root archetypal gestures is for you to get a sense of what you are doing in the scene or in a particular moment or beat in a scene first, and then use the gesture as a scaffolding under which you find nuance and specificity. As you repeat the gesture and make discoveries through rehearsal, you may refine the gesture with quality and movement until you find the distinct psychophysical movement that embodies your objective, allowing you to act with complete imagination and concentration towards your character's desire. So, to review, the components that make a strong, useful archetypal gesture are: 1. It uses your full body. 2. It uses your full breath. 3. It is actable. In other words, it is simple, tangible, and repeatable. 4. It utilizes your full concentrative energy. 5. It follows the 3 laws of composition: triplicity, polarity, and transformation. The next thing a strong gesture should have is an artistic frame. In other words, a gesture should be framed artistically in order to maximize its power and vitality. I've talked about the artistic frame in a prior video, and as always, I'll put a card up here and a link to that video in the notes. Remember, action that exists within an artistic frame is conscious action. Conscious action is what we as actors are essentially asked to do in our craft. There is a big difference between our regular, everyday, moment-to-moment behavior and truthful acting on stage and on film. Contrary to what some people think, an actor who forgets that they are in a movie or play and acts entirely as if they are living their everyday life is terrible, dangerous, boring, or a combination of the three. If it were that easy, then there would be no such thing as talent or skill with regards to our art form. Whether on stage or on film, your actions must be seen, heard, and felt by the audience or the camera. No matter how connected you are to your character, no matter how truthfully you are experiencing your character's emotions, if those feelings are not observed, felt, and understood by the audience, it may well as never have happened. For example, the actor is often asked to cheat towards the audience or camera, to keep certain actions in frame, to execute and repeat certain actions exactly, even though it may feel inorganic or untrue, because that is what is needed to tell the story. That is why the actor's actions need to be consciously executed at all times, because all of your actions are in service to the overall story being told. This doesn't mean that there isn't room for improvisational discovery in the actor's work. Of course there is. But even then, your actor self should be behind the scenes, making sure that you are working safely and in service to the character you are portraying and the story being told. Framing allows the actor to maximize the artistic impact of their work, both for themselves and for their audience. It increases the impact of your objective on your scene partner and may increase your ability to radiate a strong stage presence, making you stand out in whatever part you are playing. Parts of the technique of framing are also practiced by professional athletes, businessmen, and people of all stripes and vocations. So I want to stress that although we are calling this the artistic frame for our purposes, the practice of visualization in particular is not limited to art, but is also part of a successful framework for conscious action across the entirety of the human experience. So let's return to the archetypal gesture of dominate and practice this gesture using the artistic frame. Begin in your home stance. Feet shoulder width apart, chest open and radiating. Now, using only your creative imagination and without closing your eyes, visualize yourself executing the gesture. Imagine your right foot stepping forward and your hands reaching up at a 45-degree angle with your palms facing down. Imagine your eyes following your hands as they move downward to dominate, and then your eyes shifting their focus to your scene partner. Visualize yourself executing this gesture with a feeling of ease and then radiating the gesture until it comes to a complete and natural end. Notice the feeling of beauty in the gesture. Notice the form of the gesture. Imagine the gesture as one complete and whole movement. Try to imagine in as specific creative detail as you are able. Do not criticize or judge yourself. Imagine yourself doing this gesture perfectly. Now, beginning the gesture physically with special focus towards the polarity of the gesture's beginning from the gesture's end. Begin to execute the gesture of dominate, trying to mirror the perfect gesture of your imagination as much as possible. Again, do not judge yourself if you slip up here or there. Aspire towards the ideal form and simply let that aspiration be enough for now. Once you have completed the physical gesture, allow it to inspire a feeling within you. Again, there is no separation between your physical and psychological self, and all movements have the ability to inspire feelings and emotions within the sensitive actor-artist. Open your heart to these feelings and allow your full body to receive them fully and completely. Then imagine that you have the ability to send forth that feeling beyond the confines of your physical self towards your imaginary scene partner and then through them as far as your imagination will allow. Once you feel that the power of the gesture has peaked within you, allow the gesture to come to an end and come back to your home stance. Visualization, and in particular radiation, can be a bit difficult to grasp for some people, and it can seem a bit intangible and maybe a little bit new agey. I say that without judgment to certain actors, and let me tell you, I totally get that. So I can only ask this question. In Chekhov actors like Clint Eastwood and Marilyn Monroe, can you feel their presence radiating off the screen like heat from a flame?
But being this is a 44 Magnum, the most powerful handgun in the world, and will blow your head clean off, you gotta ask yourself the question, do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk?
I wanna be loved by you, just you, nobody else but you.
I think the answer is a clear yes. And if you do as well, then let me tell you that the process of radiation is one you can learn. Visualization for the actor means having a strong image of the completed action firmly pictured in your mind's eye, and that you have created a mental map of how to achieve your given objective. Think of it like driving. Let's say you are driving to Grandma's house for the first time. When you get behind the wheel, you probably have some idea of where you are going before you start the car. You probably know whether it's going to be a long drive or a short one, whether you're getting on the highway or taking dirt roads. You might even have some idea of whether you need gas or not. Back before GPS and our cell phones giving us step-by-step instructions in real time, people consulted these things called maps, which allowed them to familiarize themselves with all the roads they might need to drive on in order to get where they are going. Now let's say you are going to Grandma's house for the second time. You might not need step-by-step instructions, but you might still need some help along the way to remind you of how to get where you're going. You probably still use a map or GPS, but not as much. Now imagine that you have been to Grandma's house dozens of times. You know exactly how to get there. You don't need a map at all. However, you probably still, without really being conscious of it, have a mental picture of Grandma's house and the various turns along the way to getting there. And these pictures flash in your mind's eye as you begin the process of the journey. You can't help yourself. It's just there, a mental picture that forms at the thought. This is how visualization works. Rarely do we think in terms of language. We don't picture the words Grandma's house when we begin to drive there. We picture her actual house. We picture Grandma within the house. We feel the feelings associated with Grandma's house, whether those be love and being pampered and doted on, or anxiety because maybe going to her house is super stressful.
Oh, it's you. Well, come on in.
It's all there before we even step in the car. We think and feel in terms of moving pictures that we see in our imagination. If we can learn to control our imagination, to order the pictures to do as we will them to do, then we may have a greater degree of control over the outcome we wish to achieve. As actors, we must have great facility over our own creative imagination. And by actively and consciously visualizing the event before it happens, we can increase the possibility that the physical action will achieve a psychological result. In the actor's case, a successful outcome is one in which our archetypal gesture is alive with possibility and form, and is leading us to strong discoveries and truthful acting. In other words, specifics in imagery increases inspirational potential. In terms of radiation, what we are doing is simply imagining that we can send our inner energy beyond ourselves. We are imagining we can send this energy to our scene partner or to many scene partners. We imagine filling the stage with this energy, filling the entire theater with this energy, or allowing our energy to reach through the lens of the camera directly to the audience member watching you. And the thing is, by imagining it, you are already doing it. It's funny how it works, but imagination is a powerful thing. It is the basis of all art, entrepreneurship, invention, and innovation. But when we are asked to hone it, to cultivate it to increase its power. Many treat it like it's something outside our control, or worse, belittle it like it's not that important. It's everything, especially to an actor. It's the very heart and soul of our work. The final part of the artistic frame is knowing when the gesture has come to an end. This is very important because a frame without a border is not a frame. It's incomplete, sloppy, and vague. It's important that we as actors learn to recognize when one action is completed and another has begun, or we may end up playing the wrong action in the wrong beat or unit. Again, framing gives our intangible actions a feeling of form, and you can't spell performance without form. Hope that helps. Next time, I will be talking about the archetypal gesture of gather embrace and Chekhov's 4 brothers in art. So if you want to be the first to be notified when it posts, don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell. Until next time, colleagues, I'll see you guys later.